Wow. Watch out Wolverhampton if that's coming your way.
Doesn't sound good.
Still to come on the programme. Who's the boss, you or your kids? It's a difficult one, isn't it? Why soft parenting could be creating a generation of helpless and spoiled children. That's the debate next. We've already had a few messages, haven't we?
Yeah, we certainly have. Mark says, my children will never get presents on their siblings' birthdays unless they win pass the parcel. What's wrong with teaching children the value of winning? And that's over these bonus birthdays where some parents buy a present when it's the siblings' birthday so they don't feel left out.
Although Sharon says, I taught my kids it was just as much fun to give a present as it is to receive one. It really is. Good luck with that,
says
though.
Political correctness gone mad. Kids need to learn it's not their birthday, so no present. I'd never heard of a bonus birthday present.
Half birthdays,
I've certainly...
heard of.
half birthdays.
Yes, I'm afraid so. We'll talk about that more after the break.
It's 10 to 7, overprotective parents are harming their children. Speaking exclusively to Daybreak, one of the country's leading child psychologists has warned that overindulging our kids doesn't prepare them for adult life. But should parents be allowed to spoil their children, or does being too soft on our youngsters hold them back as grown-ups? It's our instinct to protect our kids, but are we too soft on them?
If children are always used to having their way, there is a risk they'll become spoiled. And such children, when they come on to have intimate relationships in adult life, often act a bit like princes and princesses.
A recent survey revealed that 45% of children don't just receive presents on their birthdays, but they're given so-called bonus birthday presents on their siblings' birthdays too, just so they don't feel left out.
If a bonus birthday is part of a pattern where a child isn't allowed to experience that they're not the centre of attention, they're not the big I am all the time, then they're not going to be able to cope with not being in the limelight.
More than half of parents won't let their children play certain sports over fears they'll get injured. And while many schools hold non-competitive sports days, plans were recently announced for a children's rugby tournament with no overall winner. Here at the Michael Hall School for 3 to 18-year-olds in East Sussex, there are no winners or losers in PE until the students reach the age of 12.
My role, I feel, is to give as many students as I possibly can the healthiest relationship with their bodies, with movement. There's not the pressure there of having to win, to lose. It's not to train elite athletes.
I think competition is healthy from quite an early age. Through this, children learn to cope with disappointments and also learn how to think about how they're going to do better next time and to come back stronger to fight another day.
Well, behavioural expert Lorraine Mara and Martin Baker, the senior PE teacher from the school we just saw in that report, are both here this morning. Welcome to you both. Martin, if we can start off with you. I know you were a PE teacher over many, many years and you believe in the more than non-competitive sport at a young age. Professor Scott would argue that there are lessons to be learned from winning and losing and that in many ways life is a competition and it's best to be taught about that early.
I think there's nothing wrong with using competition in education. It's a valid and compulsory educational tool, but it's a matter of how it's marshalled and placed, which is important. We compete with gravity to stand up. You know, competition is there whether we like it or not, and we must use it, I think, but it shouldn't be released into the curriculum like a wild animal.
I have a young daughter who plays netball and their team, it has to be said, are not very good. And my daughter gets a lot of pleasure from actually taking part and a real sense of pride in the team that wins. And I feel she's learning at 10 a lot from the winning and losing situation.
Yes. We need to think about the intensity and complexity of the games that children are playing together and what they're required to do. So it's not just the age and it's not just the activity, it's how the whole package is presented to children. And so in my school, I'd say competition is good. And I have a very good basketball team and we go out to win, that's for sure. And, but when you're 7 or 8 years old, I believe that's not appropriate, but children really need lots of movement and lots of play. They're not getting enough of it. And yes.
Lorraine, isn't it a problem that kids could be labelled as losers too early on?
Well, I think that we live in a very cruel world, and I think that children are very cruel to each other. And I think that if you can excel in something, then you should do that. And that comes from a healthy competitive spirit.
But doesn't that mean they're going to end up being more cruel to each other? Shouldn't we step in and manage it a bit better?
Well, there's a balance, isn't there? You know, you're not allowed to call somebody a loser because they can't run as fast as you. But at the same time, you can still encourage them. You can still encourage them. Somebody disagreed, obviously.
What about the bonus birthdays? A lot of people have been texting and emailing in this morning about this idea of some siblings having a present on their brother or sister's birthday.
For God's sake. What you're going to do, you're going to escalate it. So at 5 they get a little toy, and at 12 they get driving lessons, and at 15 they get a Lamborghini. Come on, let's get real here. When are you going to learn that it's your birthday next month, next 3 months from now, and then you're the star of the show? Until then, get on with it. Learn to share.
Just come back to the competition, Martin. Why did you decide the age of 12 was suitable to have competitive sports?
I wouldn't draw a line exactly at 12 years old, but as puberty begins, this is more the time to introduce more competition, where a child becomes an adolescent. This is the time, probably, the better time to be able to say, OK, you're here, the ball's over there, you have an opponent, now hold your space. One of the problems is
puberty, forgive me, puberty, of course, is aggression.
Yeah,
so we introduce it, right, and girls, so we introduce it. So instead of learning about having a competitive spirit from an early age, we dive in there at 12 with all the hormones going and punch somebody on the nose. Fab.
Well, on that note, thank you very much. And Martin, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
I feel like I've been punched on the nose now. Let us know what you think about this. Get in touch with us either through email, Twitter or Facebook. We'll only read the very best ones out. So if yours doesn't get read, well, you're a loser, aren't you?
Oh, dear.
Now, here's Laura with the weather.
There should be some winners.